U-Turn would have us believe that an intern at a news portal called Indie Times will go at 10:30 p.m. in the pouring rain to a stranger's house because she needs a quote for a story she's working on. If such incredibly dedicated interns do exist, please point them in the direction of Film Companion. And this is perhaps the least ridiculous element in this film. U-Turn is a remake of the 2016 Kannada hit, also called U-Turn. Inspired by a flyover in Bengaluru, director Pawan Kumar created a supernatural thriller which became so successful that it spawned remakes in 6 languages. This Hindi one is the 7th. But debutant feature director Arif Khan isn't content to merely retell the story of a makeshift divider on a flyover in a new language. He and writers Radhika Anand and Parvez Sheikh twist the film on its head, add key new characters, and they change the plot. This keenness to be original is admirable, but every single addition only makes the film worse, and the execution is so feeble that I wish Arif had simply copy-pasted. Because the original U-Turn is a taut and gripping story about crime and punishment. Pawan was able to create chills and suspense. That film is also an empathetic portrait of the lives of ordinary women and what they routinely endure. So the journalist, played by a solid Shraddha Srinath, must push back against pressure to get married. There's this young mother who desperately wants to revive her career, but her husband just refuses. There's another mother who meets a tragic end because of the carelessness of her husband. The story did veer into silliness, as most horror films, and especially Indian ones, tend to do. But Pawan kept the narrative grounded in emotion. Working with a palette of blues and browns, he constructed an ordinariness which was then abruptly shattered. In the Hindi version, silliness is the dominant note, and it starts early. Alaya F, playing the intern Radhika, tells her colleague, "Life is dark, Divya. तुम रियलिटी से भाग सकती हो, but इससे रियलिटी बदलेगी नहीं." Radhika smokes pot. Her mother fights with her about fighting alcohol bottles and condoms in her garbage. She tells an attractive colleague that her longest relationship lasted a month. She's more interested in quote-unquote free floating. "I like to chill," she says. These traits are tacked on to perhaps suggest that Radhika is a rule breaker in every way, but sadly, it doesn't help to make her any more interesting. Radhika also has her own tragic backstory which wasn't in the original. In one scene, she says, "Rules तोड़ने वालों से नफरत है मुझे." But this subplot adds nothing to the film.
कैसी स्टोरी?
लोग डिवाइडर ब्लॉक्स हटाकर यूटर्न ले लेते हैं। उसकी वजह से कई एक्सीडेंट्स होते हैं।
In fact, it's one of the many mysteries of the Hindi U-turn. The biggest of these mysteries, though, is the climax. To go into more detail would be a spoiler, but when it is actually revealed what was happening, it makes everything that happened before seem even more foolish. Because if this was the explanation, then what was all that? I admire that barely 3 years into her career, Alaya F is choosing projects that are frontlined by her. But films like U-Turn and Freddy are so poorly written that it's impossible for her acting talent to shine. Alaya goes through the ringer emotionally and physically. Her character gets hurt pretty badly. But little of it has any impact. Like the recent and equally lame Mrs. Undercover, here too Rajesh Sharma plays a cop. When Radhika says to him, "I know my rights," he replies, "And we are knowing wrongs also, madam." It's very hard to rise above dialogue like this. Priyanshu Penuli, who is so solid in Extraction, mostly looks puzzled, and Manu Rishi Chadda, who's one of my favorites, plays the squeamish cop who's got blood pressure issues. So he's either vomiting at the sight of blood or he's chomping on snacks. Arif sticks to the horror film tropes, these eerie sounds, their doors creaking open, torrential rain, lightning, jump scares, close-ups of bloody faces. But little in this film is as scary as its mediocrity. You can watch U-Turn on Z5. What did you think of U-Turn? Tell me in the comments below, and do check out our podcast FC Popcorn. This episode is on Ponniyin Selvan too.